Bonjour and welcome back. You are starting Unit 2, which is where we focus in on the consonants. So this is just a quick video to get you ready for the unit to come, which, spoiler alert, you actually already know a lot of the French sounds just from the English alphabet. So this is actually going to be a pretty quick unit. Unlike the vowels that you had to learn, out of all these letters here, you actually only have to learn two of them. So take a look at all these. You can actually know the sound if you know the English alphabet. So you might want to put a little circle around P too, because it's slightly different in French. Instead of saying pa, 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 which is a really plosive sound, it's just a little bit quieter. There's less air that puffs out when you say it in French, just a p. But whether you say p, p, or p, it's very close to the same. So out of all of these letters, you only have to worry about j, k, and maybe p. So you may notice that a couple letters are missing. There's about 4, maybe 5 letters that I'm holding off for Unit 3, and that's just going to be a super short unit exploring the tricky sounds in French, because I want to give you a little bit of a deep dive into that. So, focusing on these letters right now, first we have the zh sound. Zh. Be careful when you say this that you're not saying zh, zh. Because that actually needs a letter after it to say zh. This is a zh. And it's a very beautiful sound. I always think of like a razor going, or something like a machine on. Zh. We have poodles, so we have to cut our dog's hair. So I always think of that going on. Zh. Now, you may see the sound U that you have worked so hard to master. And if you're still working on it, that's okay. But when it's combined with a Q, with the letter Q, it's actually silent. So this is just k, k, the same sound that a C or a K would make. So just so you know, we're going to review these later on, but I thought right away you'd want a little sneak peek at zh and k. Now, gonna do a little bit of a unit overview. Stay with me, because it is important to know the difference between these in order to teach it correctly to your child, because there's different things you need to be aware of, different traps you can fall into specifically for stop consonants. So essentially, you can divide consonants into two big groups. You have the continuant consonants and the stop consonants. So don't let this big word get in your way. Continuant, continue, because you can continue to make this sound until you run out of breath. You can keep going here, right? It is very different than the stop consonants, because you need to stop that sound right away. If you do not, the sound actually changes. So listen to the difference between k and ka. K, ka. If I try and make that k sound for longer, it actually changes the sound. So later on, and why is that important? It's important because later on when I get to blending, car, k, car, car. And then my brain has to do more work because there's an extra sound. House, 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 house. So instead of your brain having to do that extra mental labor of taking out that sound, we need to be very careful with stop consonants, both when we are modeling them to our kids and when we're listening to them, to make sure that they're saying b, k, k, g, p, k, t, d, instead of b, k, that those are cut really short. So the continuant consonants are these ones here. And just so you know, you're going to have a short video going into these a little bit more in depth. Won't be very long. But they're the sounds that we can just stretch out. So this is why if your child is just starting to learn the alphabet, I recommend starting with, not all at once, but starting with these letters, because they don't have to worry about that sound creeping up, because they can just say va, va. So these are the letters to start with if your child is brand new, because again, you can stretch them, nothing changes. This is different than the stop consonants. And with the stop ones, you have to be very careful not to add any sound. You may think, all right, I'll try and remember that. But I actually have a tip for you, and this is called the karate chop. And whenever you hear a ta, ka, ba, I actually want you to karate chop that letter. So here are the stop consonants here, okay? And they're the sounds, like we just said, they need to be cut short. So the sound isn't distorted. We need to stop making the stop consonants. So if you hear an sound, do a karate chop. What am I even talking about? Do a karate chop. So you got a stop consonant. You say ka. I always start with C as this. Ka. And you hear that, you say, oh, we need to karate chop that letter. If you had a board here and you were breaking it, would it make a ka sound? Or would it say k? Like, what sounds more like something that if you karate chop, would it say ka? Or would it say k? So what we do, and they say k, and I say, okay, we'll do that with me. K. All right. If I have a kid who has a lot of energy, I just get them to do a lot of karate chops at first. And then we focus on saying k. Because if they're going ka, 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 that doesn't actually help. They need to just cut it short like k. So if I karate chop these letters, we would have p, k, 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 p, k, t, d, t. Sometimes I need to practice, especially with my B's and D's. I like to add that sound, and I love it when somebody catches me and say, oh, you got a karate chop. There's actually a student I work with, and she has now gotten to the point that if she adds a sound, which isn't too often, but if she adds a sound, she just like raises her hand like this because she's ready to do the karate chop before I say anything. And I love it. So that's a great tip, especially if you've got a little bit of a younger learner. And it's great too if they can catch you doing it. Like, even if you do it wrong on purpose a bunch to start, and they have to like catch you right away, either by telling you, being the teacher, or just holding up their hand to karate chop it with you. All right, so we're going to dive into the 2 types of consonants, but this is it for your overview. This is the longest overview there is. So we went into depth about the 2 types right now, but you're just going to have a little bit of a breakout so you can work on these types independently. Okay, ça c'est tout. I'll see you in the next one where we're talking about those continuant consonants. Au revoir et à la prochaine.